another unique aspect of trees in the Bible is the fact that there's several key figures throughout Scripture who have a tree associated with them, associated with their stories, associated with profound encounters that they had with God. And a few of the most prominent are, of course, Noah, who, is like the one righteous man left on the earth that God tasks with, building an ark with a very specific type of wood. The Genesis 6 is like very interesting because it's like, there's like so many verses about the specificity, is that a word? Of like,
Totally.
get this specific type of wood and build it in this specific type of way. When that's kind of one of the things in Scripture where you're like, this just feels so random, but then when you think God is like super intentional, there's not a lost sentence in the Bible. So he has him get a very specific type of wood to build the ark. And then, of course, after the flood, Noah sends out, one or two doves or something to go and see if the flood had resided. The dove comes back the first time with an olive branch. Dove goes out the second time and then doesn't come back, and that's to signify the flood was over. Was it a second time or a third time? I don't remember. But anyways, so you got Noah, then you've got, of course, Moses, who has this profound encounter with God in a burning bush, and that's kind of like a distinct set apart moment in his life that like altered the trajectory of his walk with God and his journey of faith for the rest of his life. And then, of course, you have Abraham in Genesis 12, whenever God makes that initial covenant with Abraham, and he finds Abram in the middle of his obscurity, and he says, "Hey, you're my guy. I'm choosing you, and I want to bless you, and I want to bless the nations through you, and I'm going to give you in your family line this lavish, lush land that's going to provide for all the generations, everything that they need, and I'm going to give you a seed. There's going to be a seed that's going to come through you that's going to restore all things and reign over the earth." And he ends up at this oak, the oak of Moriah or something, and that's kind of like that's the place, the high place where God kind of entered into covenant with Abraham. And then that's the place where Abraham, in response to that covenant, builds an altar for the Lord and basically goes, "Yes, I'll obey." And so you've got the holy, majestic God who doesn't need anything. He doesn't need anybody in partnership with him to do anything, inviting broken, chaotic, messy humans into covenant with himself and making unbreakable promises to them. And so would love to hear what you guys think is the significance of God in his sovereignty and in his goodness and in his kindness, bringing and inviting humans into covenant with himself and making unbreakable promises to him that are like built on his work and on his character and on his choice, and not on our worthiness of being called or invited into that covenant. And what does that speak to God's heart and design for our flourishing?
I mean, the Old Testament is just so, even the books that you're like, like Numbers or Deuteronomy, and then you get in there and you see all these pictures of it is not just in God's heart, it's like some cherished thought, but it's like he is just dropping breadcrumbs. The timeline is set and pictures are being, made, and like I love that. I love like in Genesis when God made covenant with Abram, and there's a Tim Keller sermon that I love. I think it's called Abraham and the Torch, but just talking about the nature of covenant was, the shedding of blood and the kind of saying, as there's like a sacrifice of something, it's like, if I don't uphold my end, may this be done to me. And the other is saying, if I don't hold up my end, may this be done to me. And, there's just this crazy picture of God's covering both sides of that. And I think that if, as related to trees or living things, like there is just this crazy sturdiness and deep root system that we see in the covenant of God, the Mosaic covenant and the Old Testament, that then, it's like we see Jesus come and fulfill those things, not do away with them, but totally fulfill it.
Yep.
And be the OG of it, of like, this is how I'm going to keep covenant. I'm going to do it all.
Yeah.
So,
but even in the same breath, it's like, but he's invited us in. Like, I think of the spots where it talks about, like, we can plant the seed and we can water, but God gives the growth.
Yeah.
And it's this idea of, he's like, I'm inviting you in, I'm making you part of this, just like we were saying with his will and ours. Like, he's like, you can participate, and I'm asking you to, and I'm almost making it as though it's necessary for you to do this, but I'm the one the tree's sprouting because of me. But come and be in this with me, and that I feel like that's what it's like for us to participate in the covenant, is that it's like, no, we're not keeping our end of the deal. Like, if this is the handshake, I can't successfully go, yep, I did it, I was sinless and I met all the standards and all that. But it is like, you gave me the opportunity to plant a seed, and you gave me the opportunity to water, and if I was faithful to do those two things, you brought the tree forth.
that's good.
I love it. And I love that, like, when God chooses to invite his people into covenant with him, he's like fully acquainted with every square inch of our depravity. He's like, I know I got a pretty good picture of your past, present, and future failure. I know how you're going to mess it up, and I know how you're going to not reach the bar. And yet, and still to display my extravagant mercy and kindness, and to display my undeserved love, I pick you, and it's one of the best parts of the good news. That he's done the work and he's doing the work, and even as we strive to, like, faithfully participate in the will of God and the promises of God, we can, even in the midst of that, rest in him to find the life and the wisdom and the strategy and the strength and all of that. So even as we're doing our part, it's like he's doing our part with us and through us at the same time.
Enabling us.
Enabling us.
Totally.
Yeah.